Hi everybody, I hope you're all well. It is officially the 1st of May. We reached May already. That is insane. And here in the UK, it is a bank holiday, so I've got the day off work. And I've managed to not finished. Can't get my words right. You can tell it's Bank Holiday Monday, can't you? Reading the second Cazalet book earlier today, and the reason why I was hoping to finish it yesterday. But yesterday we had a family get together to celebrate my nephew's birthday, which was really lovely. But yeah, it meant that I had to wait until today to finish the book, and I'm actually really glad that I decided to do that, because obviously I don't want to cram in reading when I don't want to, but at the same time, sometimes you just need to have a breather on a bank holiday, and that's what I'm having. My plan was to finish the book, and that was really it for the day, and I finally did. So there we go. I've gotten around to finishing that, and then I can start on something else that I'm going to be doing this afternoon. Just so you are aware, also, last review I talked about how I've fallen head over heels in love, like obsessed with Endeavour. My DVD box set of it arrived, so in case you were wondering what on earth I'm talking about, this is it. This is the prequel to the Inspector Morse series, which my dad has loved forever, and so me and my sister kind of grew up with Inspector Morse, and then Endeavour came round, and I finally got to watching it, and my sister finished watching it on Saturday, I think, and obviously we got together yesterday, so me, my sister and my dad were just talking about Endeavour for, I think, well over a solid hour yesterday, which was really lovely. But yes, I finally got the box set, funnily enough, what I'm doing this afternoon is actually sort of related to that, in that I got recommended to watch Line of Duty. Now, I've never watched Line of Duty, and the thing was that there was the final series, there was this whole thing about identifying this certain person whose identity was relating to a letter in the alphabet. And it was this big thing, and everyone made a huge deal about it, and it was all over the news and that. And then literally the day after the final episode aired, somebody in my office came up to me and started talking about it, thinking or assuming that I watched the show, and told me who it was. And I'm like, thank you for that. I don't. I knew who this person was, so it was just like, oh, so I've waited a long time to kind of like drive the memory out my brain, and I can sort of vaguely remember who they are, but I couldn't tell you their name. So I might see them when they pop up on screen and go, oh, okay, it's that person. I don't know, but we shall see. So anyway, so it's been, I've never gotten around to Line of Duty, so this afternoon I'm going to start watching that, and we'll find out if I become head over heels obsessed with it like I have with Endeavour. We shall see. But anyway, as I said, I have earlier today finished the second Cazalet book, Marking Time by Elizabeth Jane Howard, and I am here to talk about it. Now, I just want to give a shout out straight separate from the review of the book. Whoever designed the covers for these books, or this particular set, very nice. Because the first one, I've gone and left it over there, but you'll have seen in my previous review. It's like sort of a creamy, yellowy colour, and it's got a lot of pink and pinkish and reddish kind of little, almost like daisies, but not daisies, flowers on it. Then we move into this one where it's turned into this kind of a sort of a purpley blue. It's kind of in between, and we have these darker shades and such that are coming in, and everything is kind of shadowed, as it were, with the story, because we're going into the Second World War and how that is then impacting this perfect bubble of a world of family. And then the third book is this dark colour. It's just maroon sort of, or a purplish. I can't think what exact shade that is, but my God, that is just gorgeous. And then as we go, because this is right in the depths of the Second World War, and then when you go into the fourth and fifth book, that's when you're pulling out of it, and it turns into like light, I think it's light blue and green are the colours that are used for books 4 and 5 of this set. So I love the fact that the flowers change with the seasons as well, to show the seasons of the characters, and I just love it. I love it. So whoever designed these covers, thank you, they are lovely. But yes, so anyway, let's talk about this book. So the second book, Marking Time, covers 1939 to 1941. Let me just absolutely categorically confirm that, because I'm now debating with myself. Yes, the winter of 1941 is where it ends. So we are right in the beginnings, as it were, of the Second World War. That there is, a lot of stuff happens in that time, obviously in the war, and to the Cazalet family, following on from the first book, where war is basically announced right near the end of the book. And yeah, the perfect bubble that is their life, and their summers that they spend together, is completely burst. And actually very, very interesting. I loved the opening sequence, especially of this book, because what happens, and this isn't, I'm not going to, spoilers about, particular people, things that happen to particular people, because obviously this is book 2 of a 5-book series, and I don't want to be, throwing stuff at you. But I will say that the very beginning of the book is brilliant, because the house where they all get together for the summer is in Kent, and so they're not too far from they're away from London enough to not have the city, hustle and bustle and that of the city be right on their doorstep, but still close enough to be able to, register that it's there, as it were. And war has been announced and everything, and it's the first air raid in London, and they are watching from where they are. They're watching bombs falling and the explosions, and they're going, right, we've got to get gas masks, we've got to get the kids in the house, that kind of thing. And it really does shake the family. And we have got this family, the Cazalets, where the parents, as well, because there's 3 generations. We've got a set of grandparents, then we've got the 4 Cazalet children and their various spouses or partners, because one isn't married but has a partner, and then their children. So we've got 3 generations of a family in this house at the time. And yeah, the second generation, the parents, have already been through the First World War, so which wasn't that long before, and one of them suffered really quite badly, and has like PTSD relating to the First World War. So suddenly having this happen in house with the children and everything, it really shakes him, and it shakes up everybody's world. But what is so interesting with this book, and I was talking to my sister about this yesterday, is that the first book very much follows the parents, and the kids and the grandkids are kind of like, they're there obviously because we need to know about them, we need to understand their connections with each other, how siblings interact with each other and such. But then it's very much kind of their parents' book. But in this one, everything shifts in that the grandkids are the centre. And particularly, if I show you, there's at the beginning of each book, there is a family tree. So I can show you, if I can get to the page. There we go. So here's our family tree. So very much it's this tier up here, the parents. So Hugh, Sybil, Edward, Viola or Villy, Rachel, Rupert, and Zoe are our key players in book one. But then when we move to book two, it then shifts. So our key characters are Polly, who is Hugh and Sybil's eldest. Then we have Louise, who is Edward and Villy's eldest. And then we have Clary, who is Rupert and Zoe's eldest. Just so you're aware, Zoe is a second wife. She's stepmother to Clary and Neville. So yeah, so there's not much. There's only about 10-year age difference between Clary and Zoe. So they're very close, quite close in age, but they're not close in personalities and such. But as time goes on, especially in this book, there becomes a new level of understanding between the two of them, which is so important for going forward and such. So that is really nice to see their friendship kind of blossom, as it were. So yeah, throughout the chapters, you then get these. Have we got a chapter list? Yeah. So home place is the name of the house where the Cazalets, go every summer. It's the family home. And then instead of having like what we see in the other books, we have like a section for Zoe, we have a section for Villy, we have a section for Hugh. All we have are Louise, Clary, and Polly. And then it goes the family. And when it goes to the family, that's when everyone has got, bits of a chapter and sort of throughout. So, but our key players are Louise, Polly, and Clary. I love the fact, I think that's what really captured me with the BBC radio play that led me on to the BBC TV drama and then onto these books. I love the fact that the women are the key players. We have, obviously, the men are very important and, they have their roles and everything, but it's really the women and how they are affected by war and other things. As well, and how the role this is a real time where the role of women shifts in history. Men were going off to war unless they stayed, if they had like certain jobs, which mean that they needed to stay more on the home front. So some like businessmen, various roles like bakers and stuff such as that, where it was like, well, they're kind of needed here, so it was okay if they didn't go off to war, but obviously many men did, and so that meant that women who were previously given the role of housewife, and that was all you were a wife, you were a mother, that was it. Suddenly jobs needed to be filled and opportunities became available to women. So when you've got these three women who they're in, well, Louise at this point, at the beginning of this book, she is about 17, and Clary and Polly are both about 14 to 15. So they are young adults, but still, this sudden shift, they grow up very quickly and they find themselves taking completely different paths. Louise has always wanted to be an actress, so she decides, right, I'm going to go off and I'm going to learn to be an actress, and it's all about her learning the realities of life, but also learning another life story, which I'm not going to explicitly say, but I will come back to shortly, about how do I describe it without giving it away? About darknesses in the world that she has never seen before. So yeah, she's focusing on her dream. Polly is not sure where to go, she's kind of confused by the world. Not that she doesn't know where she stands, it's a case of that she doesn't know what she wants. She doesn't know the rules of war. She doesn't know what's safe anymore. Her foundation, her safe foundation has been shook and she is shaking with it. She's just a bit dazed and confused by it. And Hers is a struggle to find that stability again. And what that stability actually is it a career choice? Is it a choice in a possible marriage? Is it a choice of if she wants to be independent, if she can be independent? What, living in such a bubble where there haven't been real kind of limits, how do you then approach a world where there's constant limits, where you are constantly I'm trying to think what the word is. I'm being very bad at this review today. Where you're constantly having it thrust in your face what privilege you have had. You know, the fact that each summers they have meals and such and not even think about the costs. But now everything has changed and she really notices those things. And she begins to understand, oh my God, look at the life that I have had the opportunity to lead. How can I carry on living like that in a world that is completely flipped upside down? So that's, very interesting for her. And Clary, her world has been shook just as Polly's, but she has gone, okay, my world's been shook. Let's go with it. While Polly is still days and nights, she's like, no, fuck it, I'm clear as head. This is the road that I've got to take. And that is mainly due to her father leaving to go to the front, to go to war, and some news from overseas, which means that her entire stability is not just the stability of her society, of her generation, of her family, of everything. Her stability of her father, who has always been there, who the one parent that she has had her entire life, because she lost her mother when her brother Neville was born. And even though Zoe is a stepmother, she doesn't really see Zoe as a stepmother because there's very short, age gap between them. And her father has only been with Zoe for, I think, 3 years. Before the beginning of the first book. So to have this new woman who's only 10 years older than you in your life and you have to call stepmother within 3 years, it's a big thing for her to take. So everything, to then have her father not there, she has to find her new way, and she goes, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write to Daddy. Every day I'm going to write to Daddy, and her sections are just full of these letters to her father of all of this detail of what is going on, and how people are coping or not coping, and how her mission is that she is going to make her father smile at least once with every letter. And that is her path, that is her goal, that is her focus. So her world has been shook, but she's gone, okay, you can shake me, you can take me down the dark path, but I am going to deal with it. And as I said, Polly has been completely shook, and she is still dazed and confused, and she doesn't know where she's going. She doesn't know what path is actually in front of her. She can't see her path. And Louise has chosen a path which is completely away from the darkness, or as much away from the darkness as possible, but she doesn't realize that there is darkness wherever you go in life. Whatever path, there is going to be something there that you are not going to be able to anticipate. So these 3 women going off in completely different directions at a time when they are still, you could argue, children. They legally they're not adults yet, but they are branching out, and they are finding their way through this very tumultuous time. It's really, really interesting. I really, really enjoyed that. And so yes, this is a book that's very much for them. As I said, there are sections where we go back to home place and we're with the family, or it's just the family section, and we see, we talk about, there's a chapter here in London, there's a chapter here in Kent, there's a chapter here elsewhere, because traveling around and such, and how the various characters are impacted. Also, you know, obviously the parents, there was a lot of stuff that was going on in the first book that we learned about. There's life, there's death, there's lots of things that go on, and we do feel the knock-on effect of that throughout. That there are some things that you just can't anticipate happening, and I think that Elizabeth dealt with it in a as delicately as possible, but there is the shock value because you don't see it coming. And this is a bit where I'm going to get a bit spoilery, but I have to in order to explain, and it's relating to Louise. So yeah, so I'm going to go into that a little bit now. How about when I go like that, that means that the spoiler bit is over. Okay, so if you see me like that, it's over. Right, here we go. So Louise has a storyline with her father in this book where her father is going through quite a bit in his marriage, in his work, the impact of war, issues that he has in general. And one day he comes and he takes Louise out for dinner, and they go out for the evening and such. And he's had a bit too much drink, and he kisses her, and it throws Louise completely off. And she's like, "What the fuck was that about?" But she goes, "Okay, look, he was drunk or whatever. He didn't. This is weird." And then it happens again when he's not drunk, and he's mortified by it, and Louise is horrified by it, and it's a really tough thing to read. Now, just to clarify, her father is not a paedophile, you know, as in this is the start of an ongoing story where you found out some deep dark shit about her dad. No, and I'm no way justifying what he did whatsoever, because, you know, there's some dark it's a dark story. The way that Elizabeth approaches it, and the way that he reacts to it as well, he knows that he has done something, he has crossed a serious line, and it doesn't go any further than that. To confirm, it doesn't go any further than that. The way that she approaches it and handles it, I think, is done very well, and it does come out the blue. It is a tough thing to read, and the way that he then responds after that, and his decision of what to do, I respect him for that, for what he says to Louise. And even though it may hurt him, he knows he has to protect his daughter, and it's the first time Louise realizes that her parents are people. And I think every person at some point has gone, whether it be with their parents, with their relatives, whatever. For a long time in childhood, you see your family as family. It's just their family. And then you reach a certain point in adolescence or you know, whatever. And then you go, those are people. You can see negative things. You can see things that you question. You can see the light as well as the dark. And I suppose there is darkness in all of us. That you can see things, you know, bad habits or things that you morally ask, why would you do that? You know, and Louise has that moment with her father. and she's confused, and it's some pretty dark stuff in there. But as I said, the way that her father reacts to it and responds to it and what he does, I get it. I get why he makes the choice that he does. So even though it might be the hardest thing for them to have to deal with, he goes, no, I can't do this to my daughter. I don't know what's wrong with me. There's something wrong with me, and I don't know what it is. So I need to walk away from this. But yeah, it's a really sad section of the whole Cazalet saga. And yeah, it's a tough one. And so I wanted to mention it here because it, if you don't know that it's coming, it's quite shocking to come across it. But yeah, it's a dark bit of the story. So there we go. Spoiler time is up. So yeah, it's a tough grey area. And it is that thing, as I said, the change in adolescence, when you understand that there is true darkness in the world, intertwined with a war that you, as children, you don't understand the concept of. You don't understand why the adults are acting the way that they act when they hear this news. You don't have that life experience, and now you're going to get it at full force. So this really is a shift pattern that happens compared to the first book. The first book is, as I said the other week, it is like a time capsule. It is a bubble of family life, perfection, glorious summers together, not a care in the world, and then the bubble bursts. And so, yeah. Now, you could argue, and I totally understand this, you could argue that not much happens in this book. Okay, fine. But the thing is that in order for you to, because obviously I know the BBC radio play, I know what is going to happen next. In order to understand why the life choices that Polly, Louise and Clary make in particular in the next book happens, you have to understand the build-up. And the build-up is this entire book. You have to understand how they see everything, every possible perspective. Let me just check the dates that the third book covers. So the third book covers from March 1942, so not long after the previous book, and ends in April to May 1945. So we're going to be covering 3 years in a shorter amount of time than this book, which covers about 2, wasn't it? Yeah, 2 years. Yeah. So bit thinner. So yeah. We're getting 3 years in this and 2 years in that, and yeah, the girls are going to hit their, or women should I say, are going to hit their late teens going into their early 20s in Confusion. And Confusion also, I think, especially for Clary, her choices that she makes greatly linked to her dad. It's so obvious now. Clearly to me, I mean, it was obvious before why, but now that I understand her deep root insecurities and how important those letters were for her dad, why she then makes the choice that she does in Confusion. So that's all to say about that. But yeah, again, we have life, we have death, we have all the grey in between, and some unexpected darkness in this second book that is just, it's great. and the underlining sad, dark tones really appear from page 1, as I said, with witnessing an air raid, and how that really shakes up the family. And then, carries on through to the end of the book in 1940. So 1941, sorry. So so I've been talking mainly about character and story and not really about writing style, but Elizabeth has carried on to write this story beautifully. And I really do feel that she is a great writer, and I love the fact that she gives women of different ages, of different opportunities, different paths, different just everything different, and tells their stories. It's the women of the Cazalet family that are the strongest for me. And at this time in society, when, as I said, men were going off to war and women were asked to, join the home front or get jobs in factories and such. And this was really a time where it revolutionized women in the workplace. It's so important to tell stories like of women at that time and the opportunities that they had or didn't have, depending on what they were doing. The various lives that they had. It's really great, and I really love Elizabeth for writing their stories. Now, the BBC radio play, I actually have the CDs to hand this time. So this covers all 5 books, and the running time, it says, is 12.5 hours. This is the cast of the Cazalets. But there are other cast members for other characters who come across the path and everything. I really, really like this. I've been really listening to this since I've been reading started reading the books, and it's been really great to revisit the BBC radio series. Highly recommend it. I think it's great. And it was from, let me just check. 2014 is when it was made. But it's just great. I really, really like it. So I highly, highly recommend the BBC radio drama. And there is the BBC TV drama that they did, which covers the first 2 books. I like it, but I don't love it. Now, the reason why I say that is because, very irritating, the cast is great. It's well shot. It's well put together. I'm not that fond of the script. It is a good script, but sometimes you have these periods where you have like these long sections where they're like on a beach and we're watching them, play and all this lot, and then which goes on for quite some time, and then you have these short periods where it's like bang, 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 lots of things done. It's like, well, if you just shortened that the beach section, you could have put that a little bit longer and given that time. It's just like, a bit of timing was a bit off, but then also you could argue that that's also director's choice and such. So it's not a bad drama, it's just the balance is not quite there for me in the script, and it is really irritating, the fact that it ends like the second book ends, and then it's like, and then there's no more because they didn't make any more. So it's kind of like you're left on a bit of not a cliffhanger, but it's like I'd really want to carry on and I can't carry on because they never made any more of them. So, it is what it is. So if you do watch the TV drama, be aware at some point it's just going to end abruptly and you won't be able to carry on. Whereas the BBC radio drama, they did cover all 5 books. The cast is brilliant. It's well put together and I really, really like it. So if you want to, out of the 2, I would recommend the BBC radio one more, just simply because you've got everything. And funnily enough, the characters, the children, it's played by the same actor or actress who plays them as adults. So you can very much tell it is an adult putting on a kid's voice at times. But, it is what it is. But I very much enjoy that. So those are my thoughts on Marking Time by Elizabeth Jane Howard. So let's do my usual questions. Would I read this again? Yes, I definitely would. But as I said, I would read it after I finish the whole 5 books, you know, put it aside and then come back to it at a later point, because I feel like I'd need a break from it a little bit. Would I read any more Elizabeth Jane Howard's work? Yes, definitely, yeah, and obviously I'm reading the rest of the Cazalet series. And would I recommend this to anyone? Yes, I definitely would. As I said previously, people who like, you know, saga books, family saga books like the Forsyte Saga and such, I would recommend this to give them a go. So those are my thoughts on Marking Time by Elizabeth Jane Howard. If you read this book, let me know what you think. Leave a comment box below. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, type if you like to decide. I'll be back with my next read, which is the 3rd book in the Cazalet collection called Confusion. Yeah, let's see what happens with this one. So we are in the 3rd one. We are ranging from March of 1942 all the way to April to May 1945. And oh, very interestingly, we have got 3 distinct sections. So rather than just being one section and then you have like a section, you know, a part of that to say the family or Louise or Polly like we did, we have got 3 sections, and within each of those we have, what is it, 5 each? Oh, the first 2 are 5 and the last one is 6 smaller sections. So yes, so there we are, and we have an updated family tree as well, which is really good, because I thought they would have updated it in the 2nd one, but then given what happened in the 2nd one, it does kind of make sense to wait till update it to the 3rd one. So yes, very much looking forward to that. So I'll back my thoughts on Confusion as soon as I'm done. And guys, bye.